from what everybody told me was he was cluster feeding, which meant he was on the breast almost 24/7. He would come off for a little bit and then would want to be right back on. Everybody kept telling me that's normal. He's just cluster feeding. But he wasn't gaining any weight. He was born at 6 pounds, 5 ounces. And at 1 month, he was 6 pounds, 5.5 ounces. When I finally was directed to a lactation consultant group, they had me do a weighted feed on him, and he fed for an hour and was getting less than 2 ounces of breast milk, eating for an hour. And they had told me at that point, he was actually exerting more energy to eat for that long than he was actually taking in. So I ended up going to a meeting the very next day. I told them he's only gained half an ounce. Okay, we're gonna do a weighted feed because we wanna see exactly how much he's taking in. We did the weighted feed, and she instantly went and got a pre-made bottle of formula and said he needs this. And so I fed him the bottle, and she pointed out to me, she's like, look at how relaxed he is now. Look at how relaxed his hands are. And he was sound asleep, which he hadn't done. Look at what a difference this one bottle has done for him. And so she sent me home with a bunch of the little supplemental bottles and a plan to triple feed him and to come back the next week. So I started doing that around the clock, and I took him back the next week, and he gained 2 pounds in a week. She said that he was starving. The poor little boy was starving. Just in that week, I got so much more education and support. They had me keep doing the same thing the next week. And I think it was probably 2 weeks later of doing the triple feeding, he still was only getting 2 ounces at a time. And the lactation consultant told me, she said, you know, if you're doing this, if you're pumping, if you're triple feeding him and he's still only getting 2 ounces, she said, that's probably all you're ever going to produce at one given time. And she said, this will never be enough. Breastfeeding is going to have to be secondary. You know, you can supplement with breast milk, but she said, you're definitely going to have to feed him formula as the primary. And so that's what we did. But I felt like I was just attached to my pump. I felt like I was holding my pump more than I was ever holding him. Probably a week or 2 after that, I was on the phone with my mom talking to her about what was going on. And my mom finally said, Mandy, that baby needs you to be healthy and sane more than he ever needs breast milk. And it was like in that moment where I was given permission that I could just be done and that I didn't need to sacrifice my mental health anymore and I could just be done. We had an appointment with his doctor, and I was actually really nervous to tell her that I was going to give up breastfeeding because I thought she was going to try and pressure me into continuing. I just didn't want to. I reluctantly told her, I said, you know, I think I'm done trying to breastfeed in any capacity. She told me, you've tried harder at this than 98% of the moms I've ever worked with. And she said, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's okay. And I just broke down in her office because she was right. Like, it was just never gonna work for us, and that was okay. But I needed the permission from people.